The 2020 presidential election is coinciding with one of the most polarizing times in modern
The growing calls
history.
across the nation to defund the police. But what does that mean?
Los Angeles to Washington, D.C.
Defund! Defund! When I say defund, you say police defund!
In today's world, people's well-being is a major problem that cannot be ignored without dire consequences. Our police are vital to protect civilians from the evil that is unavoidable. But now, a percentage of the American people and politicians are calling for defunding the police due to the recent corruptions that have flooded our media over the last several months.
So what does this all mean? What will our society look like if our police were defunded in America? Is this a direction that will benefit all Americans?
This legislation is not about defunding the police. It is not about defunding law enforcement. It's about funding the right kind of law enforcement.
I think the efforts that they're trying to get to, the folks who are behind this movement of defunding the police, is really about making our police more educated, more sensitive, better trained, and more capable of dealing with the incredible demands that they face every day on the streets.
If there is anything that the torture and murder of George Floyd by Minneapolis police has taught us, is that we have to rethink the nature of policing in America and reform our broken and racist criminal justice system.
Is it a good idea to defund the police, and what would the defunding of the police look like? These are questions we are exploring in hopes of understanding both sides of the argument and what our government's standpoint on the topic is.
You defund the police, and you're looking at how do you keep the public safe? I mean, there's violent people in this world, and we have to be able to respond and protect those that can't protect themselves.
The police, by definition, is a department of government concerned primarily with the maintenance of public order, safety, health, and enforcement of laws, possessing executive and judicial and legislative powers.
We need to train our police. We need to fund our policemen. My heart goes out to policemen. Every day they put their lives on the line. If the police were defunded, we would not be safe. It's the most ridiculous proposition I have heard, to defund the police.
Instead of, quote, dangers armed with guns, they say other professionals like social workers should be the ones to, quote, respond to crises in our community.
We need to prohibit the transfer of offensive military equipment to police departments. We need to strip federal funds from departments that violate civil rights. We need to provide funding to states and municipalities to create a civilian corps of unarmed first responders to supplement law enforcement.
You're going to call a social worker? A social worker is going to be unarmed and ill-equipped to deal with a situation like that. They're not going to come in there. These people that victimize others, they don't perceive kindness as a virtue, they perceive kindness as a weakness to take advantage of.
I'm all for social work and mental health, but call me old-fashioned. I think you may actually want a police officer to stop a criminal and arrest him before we try to work through his feelings.
Think of your grandma and your grandpa. I mean, if some big guy comes in there and starts assaulting them, are they going to be able to protect themselves? I know my parents aren't, and my parents are in the 70s, and they'd be victimized. That's why they need law enforcement, somebody there to come and help them in a time of need.
The vast majority of men and women in law enforcement across our country are not evil, are not racist, do not wake up every morning looking for violence.
I think the government needs to recognize that they've been given a huge responsibility for public safety. It's a big job, especially these days where there are some communities where crime is on the rise and drug abuse, etc. There's always going to be a need for the police.
Because we're only shown a 30-second snippet on news. We don't know the adrenaline, we don't know what's going on in their minds. I don't know all the training that law enforcement received. You know, I look at somebody, if they've got their hands in their pockets, is that a gun, is that a cell phone? I put myself in those scenarios, what would I do?
I think police need oversight, and I think I agree that some stuff needs to change, but I think defunding the police is a very scary thing.
When our society does have police violence, is it fair of us as a society to stereotype all police as being unjust? These are people who go out every day and risk their lives to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And will defunding the police reduce crime as they hope, or will it just make things worse?
All right, we're gonna call that good.